Okay, before we get into your first GitHub issue or submitting your first PR, I just want to talk about your mindset and what it takes to be a helpful contributor to open source. Now, that's the key. I said being helpful. And that's the one thing, that is my guiding principle. When I think, can I contribute to open source? What I'm really asking myself is, can I be helpful? Can I be helpful to the maintainer of whatever open source package I'm working with? And can I be helpful to other people who might be using that open source package as well? And I believe that anyone can be helpful. Anyone has the ability to add value. And so you are ready. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. When you make a PR to an open source contribute or an open source project, it's not your code, it's someone else's code. And I'll refer to them as the maintainer because that's what they are. They are the open source maintainer. And just remember, it's their code. So you wouldn't go to someone else's job and say, "Hey, I made this better for you. Here it is." You would talk to them first. You would say, "Hey, I have an idea of how to make this better. Do you think that would be helpful? Can I do that for you?" It's the same thing. That's where I'm talking about submitting good GitHub issues. When you find a bug, submit a good issue. We don't talk about it explicitly as far as a dedicated training video, but if you have an idea for something that you want to do in an open source package, open an issue. Ask the maintainer, do you want this? It's really demoralizing to think, I have this great idea, I'm going to put a lot of time and effort into doing it, and then you submit your PR, and guess what? It gets rejected because the maintainer didn't want it in the first place. So make sure you communicate. Communication is key. Secondly, well, why wouldn't the maintainer want what I did? I built a great feature. People want it. Keep in mind, the maintainer of an open source package, think of that word, maintainer. As soon as you submit that PR and it gets merged, they maintain that code for the life of the project. So even if you come in with a really helpful set of features that you want this package to have, if the maintainer looks at it and says it's not really my vision and I don't want to maintain this code moving forward, that that's why it's so important to communicate. And when you're writing your PRs and you're writing your code, understand it is someone else's code to maintain. That's why it's so important to write tests. I personally am not great at writing unit and feature tests, but whenever I contribute to open source, I always make sure that I do that because the maintainer wants and needs a nice set of unit tests that they can rely on when they're updating their package. And every person who uses that package relies on that test suite to make sure that when they upgrade to the latest version, that it's still going to work. So just be aware of what a maintainer has on their plate to maintain this open source package. Communicate with them and understand you are trying to be helpful, but ultimately they maintain it. So I always defer to the maintainer. There's a section where in your PR you can allow maintainer edits 100% every time. The maintainer, it's their code base. They can always edit it. So the last thing is if you're sitting there thinking, well, gosh, that sounds kind of intimidating. I don't want someone to reject my PR. It's going to make me feel bad. Um, Even a rejected PR can be helpful. So, again, my mindset, am I being helpful? Yes. So I submit an issue. If the maintainer says, yes, I want that feature, or yes, that is a bug, they usually don't confirm if it's a bug, but you find a bug. You submit a PR. Maybe they look at that PR and they say, yeah, this would solve it, but I know my code base and there's a way better way to solve this. So um, I can't use a single line of code that you wrote. I'm going to fix the issue or I'm going to add this feature, but I'm going to do it in a different way. And your PR is rejected or merged, but like I've actually had a PR merged with 0 lines of my code ending up in the code base because what I wrote was just not the way that the maintainer wanted it to work. And so he merged the PR because it was something he wanted, but he wanted to do it completely differently. And so that's okay. Don't take offense to it. Don't worry. Like imposter syndrome, if you're not familiar with it, is people thinking, oh, I'm not a good enough developer. I'm not a real developer. And that is, everyone struggles with that. Everyone. I know Matt Stauffer, he does live coding most Fridays. And if you're not familiar with Matt, he's a amazing Laravel developer, and he always posts like, "Hey, if you're worried about imposter syndrome, come watch me fumble around with this thing." And whenever you watch these videos, even my videos, they're all polished. It's all like I made sure I knew exactly what to do before I recorded it. And unless you're watching live coding, that's what you get when you watch these videos. So don't think, oh, I'm watching every video I watch. These guys never make mistakes. They never have to look something up, or we do. Everyone does. So don't feel like you're not good enough to contribute. You are good enough. Now, I'm giving you the steps. If you don't want to submit a code like a PR right away to the code base, just submit issues. If you want some code, but maybe just in the README or the docs, you can work there. When you're finally ready, build yourself up to it, but understand you can do this. You can contribute to open source and you can be helpful.